So there's a study out there. More new dads are taking leave from work. And how much is the right time? How long should they be able to go? And are we all good with this? It's a new world, right? The new world we live in, where men should be as responsible as women when it comes to bringing up the kids. Jerry Acuff is a workplace culture specialist. What do you think, Jerry? What's the perfect time off? What should be allotted for men?
That's a great question. You know, and what's interesting is if you ask men that question, men would say that the right amount of time is 4 weeks. I think women would say that it's. I think women would say it's 8 weeks. The truth is, the Family Medical Leave Act in 1993 mandated that women could have up to 12 weeks of maternity leave without losing their job.
Yeah.
Now that's not paid leave. Because the big issue, candidly, is how much of this is going to be paid, whether it's paternal or whether it's maternity leave.
You might have some companies that offer paid leave for this, a limited, but for the most part, like when my daughter was born, my wife went on leave. The beauty of it is that she was able to come right back at the position that she was in, I believe, is what her contract. She's a teacher, so but she didn't get paid. You didn't get paid for that, so.
And I think that's the next frontier. If you look at, I think of 196 countries, there are only 4 of them that don't have a federally mandated program for paid leave, and we're one of them. I think it's coming. It's going to come for several reasons. One is the ACLU is going to do something about it, probably. Secondly, the structure of our families is changing. I mean, I'm watching television the other day, and this guy and his partner had adopted 4 foster kids.
Yeah.
And he was a foster child himself, and he started this whole initiative on giving all these kids backpacks. But I'm saying to myself, you tell me this guy doesn't and his partner don't deserve paid leave to raise these 4 foster children?
Right.
Probably so.
Yeah.
So these new family structures. The other thing is millennials. Millennials are 40% of the workforce, and their whole issue, one of their big issues is work-life balance. And so it's coming. It's just a question of when and how, and do people get paid for it?
I have 2 thoughts, if I could. I'm sorry. I want to get your reaction to something. The idea that you would adopt a foster child and then get paid leave for that seems curious to me, because I always thought the idea is you're welcoming home a baby, an infant that needs a tremendous amount of care. Any child would. But, I mean, when they're an infant, it's different. So I thought that was to help ease the transition from, because they need, as an infant, they need constant care. What are your thoughts on that? If you adopt, let's say you adopt a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old?
Were these adopted children?
Well, I mean, they were all under 5.
Yeah, that's a handful.
Yeah, it is a handful. And I think the other key is that when you adopt children, I think the reality is, regardless of what age there has to be some sort of time where they become accustomed to you as a parent.
Yeah, like a bonding.
Right.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
My other thought.
Children spell love TIME.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's
that's
nothing that we can give them more than time.
Yeah, that should be like the mantra for fatherhood and motherhood, because it really is. We walk around saying, "Well, I'm spending quality time with my child," but are you really? Because it's all they need is time. Like focused,
exactly.
Focus on the kids' time, and we're probably all guilty of being too busy at times. What do now? Right now, the average, and correct me if I'm wrong, for a mother is 11 weeks. For a father, average is only a week, right?
Yeah, the average is only a week. Now, usually men take about 10 days because they take vacation. And candidly, a lot of women have to take vacation and stuff to do maternity leave. So there's a big gap there. There's also, I think, a historical stereotypical thing where the father's got to be the breadwinner and the macho guy and can't miss work, and I think those kinds of things are changing.
Yeah.
There really some really progressive companies like Amazon, Johnson & Johnson, Square, Yahoo. They actually do have paid paternal leave, and I think it's just a question of what happens to the other 90% of companies that are not really doing this. To me, it's a retention strategy. If you're dealing with millennials where work-life balance is a critical part of their mantra, the reality is if you want to keep them, you want to be seen as progressive, not as regressive.
Right.
And I think it's just a matter of time before companies realize, like mine, that if this is something employees want, you got to give it to them. If you can't do without an employee for 6 weeks, you probably got bigger problems than paternity leave.
And think of that versus really, if you think of that 6 weeks versus having to train and hire somebody brand new and hope they're going to work out to be that great employee that you can trust and rely on. There's a lot to be said for keeping good people. There's another thing though, Jerry, just quickly. I'm sorry, you still have people that are set in their ways. I can guarantee you everybody's got somebody in mind that if they went to their boss and said, I'm taking paternity leave, the boss would be like, what are you talking about? Paternity leave? Are you kidding me? I mean, men, when they ask for this, still are looked at differently.
Oh, there's no question about that. But, one of the things I did recently, I created the 7 interview questions that you ought to ask to get the job that you want, where you actually uncover things like this. Where you can identify whether is this the kind of person, is this the kind of company you want to work for. So I think that's the first thing. Make sure you're going to work for a company where you're not going to be working for somebody whose mindset is in the 1950s or 60s. Yeah.
All right. Very interesting. All right. Well, again, do guys deserve what women are getting? And the answer is probably yes. And as you say, Jerry, it's probably coming. So.
At a ratio of 11 to 1, though.
11 to 1. All right, Jerry. Good stuff. We'll do this again. I think there are many other areas that we could talk about in the workplace culture that goes on out there today. So, all right.
Well, you guys are doing a great job of bringing the subject up.
All right, Jerry. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
Jerry Acuff, workplace culture specialist.
I gotta say though, you gotta yield to the women on this. There's probably some others out there that are like, no. You don't take any paternity. You're fine. Keep working. It's all good.
Yeah, but I lost my job in that time period, and my wife kind of handled everything. But at that time, then I was scurrying to try to find something. We started a TV show. I had a comedy club. We were doing all of these things, and I was always working. So it was very hard on her, and I think it needs to be. Believe me, she reminds me of that several times.
Two thoughts. One is that here, I mentioned this earlier, I want to be clear on this. At Town Square, it's a paid week. I know he said some are paid, some are not. It's a paid week.
Okay.
It's 1 week, but it's paid.
That's big because not everybody offers that.
The other thing is I hate when I do this because I just lost my train of thought.
I will say that something that has changed here is that is different from when I was coming up in the business, this radio business. It used to be if you're sick, you better get here. I don't care what you have to do. You make sure you bring along a bucket to do whatever you might have to do in between the break, but you are here.
Right.
You come to work. Unless you're deathly ill, you come to work. That has completely changed.
Yes.
Now, if you're sick and you come to work, it is frowned upon.
Yeah.
I feel guilty taking a day off when I'm not feeling well because I've been brought up to feel like you don't take days off. So when I take a day off, it's tough. I really have a tough time doing it. And don't get me wrong, I'll enjoy it once I do it. But I have a tough time doing it. But around here, let me tell you, you come to work sick and you have a cold or like a really bad cold or flu-like symptoms, get the hell out of here. That's the philosophy.
Well, it doesn't help. We've got no windows that open.
That's right.
In the building.
There's no ventilation in the building.
The other thought I had was if you can take 6 weeks off, and for instance, like in a position like this, I'll use myself as an example. If I remove myself from 6 weeks, it puts extra stress on everyone else because you have to do some of the different things. But if you can do it, if you can sustain it, doesn't it make the case that I wouldn't be needed?
Right. I do worry about that. Right. So all of a sudden, I know people won't take vacation time because they fear that if they, that isn't you. I don't think you feel this way, Davey, but that they won't take vacation time because they fear that if they do, somebody better is going to come along and fill in and they'll not be needed anymore.
Well, precisely. That's why I think the federal regulation is that they would be allowed the time. You don't have to pay for it, but they'd be allowed the job when they came back.
I'm just saying you are making the case for maybe that person isn't that important because we got to buy without them. Fine.